Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Spider Sense Riding. My name is DJ. I'm the three-wheel Can-Am specialist here at MotoMember Select. And previously, I've done a video on how a rider should get on a Can-Am Spyder, but that was sort of more driver-focused. I've got a lot of questions in the comments. A lot of people come into the dealership. They tell me they know how to get on the Spyder and ride it. But I've got a lot of questions on how does a passenger get on the bike? And I kind of did focus a lot more on the driver in that aspect, where I didn't realize, or I should have realized, that a lot of people do ride two up with a passenger. So there is an easier way to get on the bike, especially if a lot of us come from two wheels, where there's a couple different things that come into play. For example, a driver usually gets on the bike first to create that stability for the passenger before they mount the bike. Or two, when a bike is on its kickstand and is leaning to one side, you're usually hopping on the bike on that side that the bike is leaning. But since we are working with a three-wheel bike here, a Spyder, the stability is already there. So the big thing when I tell people is the passenger should get on first. Makes it a lot easier for the driver to mount the bike, and then also makes it a lot easier, or makes it a little bit more difficult if the driver decides to hop on, because there's not a lot of room for the passenger to squeeze or actually mount themselves on the bike. So we're going to go and show you guys exactly how the passenger should get on the bike. And again, they're going to go first. I'm also going to show you a couple different ways that you can make adjustments to the floorboard here, because if you are a taller passenger or a shorter passenger, you probably want to go ahead and adjust the passenger floorboard so that way your feet aren't dangling if you are a shorter rider, or you don't feel like you're too cramped if you are one of those taller passengers that are riding on the back of the bike. And then, of course, we'll just slightly talk about some of the different comfort creature features that you can add just to make it easier to get on the bike, and then two, to help you feel a little more secure, a little bit more safe out there on the road for the passenger. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and hop on the bike, and you're really going to do it in the same fashion as I showed in the previous video on how the driver does it. And by that, I mean, what you're going to choose whichever side of the bike you want to get on. At the end of the day, again, the stability is there. You don't have to worry about tipping over, or the driver getting on and keeping the bike up for you. Again, you got three wheels, stability is already there. So if that's the case, just get on the side that you're a little bit more comfortable with. If you're banged up on one side of your body compared to the other, it'd probably be better to utilize the other side. Or if you're on the side of the road and you want to avoid traffic, you can use the opposite side, because you can get on the same exact way, however way you want to get on the Spyder. But the bike is facing forward, so I'm going to be starting on the left side of the bike. So if I'm going to be getting on the bike from the left side of the bike, I start with my left leg. And what you're going to do with this left leg first is get your foot on the passenger floorboard here. The reason why we don't like to get people to get on the driver floorboard is because they tend to try to do that cowboy throw, which is pretty typical for two-wheel bikes. But if you have a backrest here, or if you have passenger armrest there, you might try to swing your leg over and they're coming in contact with it. You might have to strain your hips, your knees a little bit further than you need to. So what I tell people is utilize these passenger floorboards first. So again, I'm on the left side of the bike. I start with my left foot. So I'm going to put my left foot on the passenger floorboard here. I'm going to grab with my left hand the driver handlebar. And then with my right hand, I'm going to grab a passenger armrest. And don't worry, if you don't have passenger armrest, you can still grab the top piece of this passenger backrest, which is connected to the top case. But in this scenario, since I have the passenger armrest, that's what I'm going to utilize. So left foot to the left passenger floorboard, left hand to the handlebar, right hand to the passenger armrest. And then from here, we're just going to pull ourselves up, and we're going to step over, and then we're going to turn forward. And then if you have a driver backrest, it does have a retention spring on here where it can just pull down forward. So when I'm in this position, I just pull down forward on the driver backrest, and I go ahead and sit down. And then from there, that's how a passenger should get on the bike. And if you guys noticed, the reason why I tell people the passenger to get on first, because if the driver was already sitting down, they're going to have to do two things. One is going to be, they're going to have to lean forward, which still doesn't give a lot of room for the driver backrest to lean forward. And you kind of have to squeeze in this little section right here, because the passenger armrest, they do angle out. It gives you a little bit more room, but you're still confined to a small space to squeeze in, is how I like to describe it, to get into this into the passenger seat there. So the driver should be the one to get on first. So I'm just going to start in the same position that I was if I was a passenger real quick. So once the passenger mounts the bike, what I tell them to do, so now that the driver can get on the bike, because I want them to get on the bike in the same way that the passenger did. And all you simply have to do is just let your feet dangle a little bit. You can hold on to your armrest, you can hold on to your handlebars here, and that way the driver can get on the bike in the same way, the safe way, a little bit easier on their bones, just a little bit easier to get on the bike in general. But just let your feet dangle just a little bit. The driver will then, of course, grab the handlebars, passenger armrest, or part of the part of the backrest here on the top case. They can step up on the floorboard, and then they can also step over and get on the bike. And then to get off the bike, if you were a passenger, of course, let the driver get off first. Just makes it a lot easier. But you just stand up. You can grab the handlebar, just drop or pull that driver backrest forward, grab the handlebar, and you're going to turn in the direction that you're going to get off the bike. So I'm going to torque my body one way. I'm going to grab the passenger armrest. I'm going to grab the handlebar, and I'm going to step over, down onto the driver floorboard, and step down onto the floor. But that is a super easy way for the driver and the passenger to get on and off the bike. And of course, it helps eliminate the risk factor of you potentially kicking your driver, annoying the driver, trying to squeeze in this small gap just to try to fit through the passenger seat. So as long as you get on the bike first as a passenger, it makes it a lot easier for yourself and then for the driver just to get on the bike. And of course, in the opposite way, have the driver get off the bike first, and then the passenger can take as much time as they want to get on and off the bike. And now, when it comes to fitment of these floorboards, the reason why at MotoMember Select we put these floorboards at the top position is because when you do step up on to the passenger floorboard, the ground clearance, or the clearance, just the clearance from the top of this floorboard to the bottom of this driver seat here is easier ground clearance for you to step over. Where if the floorboard was dropped all the way down to the bottom position, the top of the floorboard would be down here. It just makes it a little bit longer of a distance for you to try to step over this seat right here. But of course, when it comes down to your passenger's height, because this is what these are for at the end of the day, is making sure that they're comfortable. They have a nice platform to sit on there. So just to give you guys an example for myself, if I sit on this bike and you see the position that I'm locked in, I'm at a 90-degree angle here. And just so you know, I'm 6 feet, I have all legs. I got no torso, I'm mostly all legs. And you see that I'm locked in here at a 90-degree angle. Me personally, if I'm riding for a long distance, because that's what these Spyders come down to, riding long distance and enjoying it and being comfortable, I don't think I would be too comfortable riding like this for more than an hour. I might feel like I would have to stretch my legs, every so often. So for myself, or some of those out there that are a little bit taller, what I could recommend is dropping these floorboards down a couple different notches. You have about 5 different notches where you can drop the floorboard down. So that way my knees start to not bend as much. I get a little bit more flexing in there. I get a little bit more reach, I would say, or just a little bit more comfortable in my riding. Because again, 90-degree angles, I can't do it for a long period of time. I have some knee issues myself. So I prefer to ride with a bend more like this, which allows that to happen when those floorboards are dropped down. But on the opposite side, if you are a shorter passenger, you don't want to feel like your feet aren't even touching that floorboard down there. So bringing those floorboards all the way up to the highest mark, or maybe something close to the highest mark, might be more comfortable for you. That is something that you should experiment with. But just at MotoMember, we usually build our bikes out the box with them at the highest position, because we like to show people how to get on the bike a little bit easier for the driver. But again, if you're a ride 2 up, and that's the whole point of you buying a Spyder, we got to make sure both people are happy, both people are comfortable, and you're secure. So having those passenger floorboards adjusted to the passenger's liking is going to be really important. And then, of course, making sure that you can get on and off the bike a little bit easier is also another factor that should be important. But as you can guys see back here in the passenger, just a couple different things that we do like to make sure that a lot of our bikes leave out of here with is going to be these passenger armrests. As you guys can see, it's a great thing to utilize to get on and off the bike. You have something to grab, you have something that has leverage that allows you to pull over or step down off the bike. And then on top of that, or the title of this accessory is called a passenger armrest. It's there for you, to feel more comfortable, to kind of chill your elbows, to help you feel a little bit more locked in, a little bit more secure. You know, it's not like a two-wheel bike where you're holding onto your passenger and you're leaning in with the turns. You have something to hold on to when you go into those turns. And then you also have these floorboards that also give you that leverage when you're going into the turn. Because again, it's not going to be a super aggressive lean. You know, you're going to be holding onto your passenger armrest. You could be holding onto these grab handles here. And then whichever way that you're going to be turning, you know, you're probably going to push down on the opposite floorboard to give you that leverage to help you lean into the turns. Because they have what is called centrifugal, there you go, centrifugal force, which if you're going left, the force is going to force you to go off, you know, go in the opposite direction. We don't want that. You know, if you're going on a left turn pretty hard, you know, you're going to feel a lot of force that's pulling in the opposite direction. You don't want to get flown off the bike. So not only do these passenger armrests help you feel locked in, but if you're going left, what you'll do is you'll step down on the right floorboard, and that's your pivot right there. If you're going right, you're going to step down a little bit harder on the left floorboard here, and that's going to be your pivot to help you lean into that turn a little bit more. It's almost going to be like you're riding a roller coaster a little bit, as opposed to, again, riding two wheels where your guys are leaning into those turns together. In this way, it helps avoid, you know, coming in contact with the driver. I know some of us like to kind of hug up on our driver, which is not a problem, hey, you know, but it also helps them focus a little bit more on the turns on the road, you know, without you having to grab onto them and go into the turns. You have your own secure handles here to help you feel locked in and secure. So getting off the bike, since I'm on it, you know, like I said, you just stand up, push that driver backwards forward, or if there isn't one, you don't have to worry about it. You know, hold the handlebars, turn in the direction you want to get off, grab the passenger armrest, grab the handlebar, step on over, down onto the driver floorboard, and then down onto the floor. But it's that easy for a passenger to get on and off the bike. A couple different things that you can add for extra security, extra grip to get on and off the bike. But like I said, I got a lot of comments on how to make this happen. And stay tuned, guys, because I'm going to show you exactly how you can make an adjustment to these floorboards. Again, if you're a taller driver, or if you're a taller passenger or a shorter passenger, just makes it easier or a little bit more comfortable for you when you are actually on the bike and hitting the road. All right, guys, so this is the passenger floorboard here. What you can do is you can flip this bad boy all the way up as such. And don't worry, this wire is only for the passenger floorboard here. If you don't have the passenger floorboard lights, then you won't have this wire here. And just so you know, there's plenty enough give in here to go to any setting on there. But what you're going to need is either a ratchet or a drill and a 13 mil. I've already slightly loosened it up to make it easier, but just put in this bolt here. Go ahead, keep turning it. Push it a little bit more. Oh, snap. So that will just pop off like that. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different positions where you can set that floorboard. But like I said, here at MotoMember Select, we tend to put it at the highest position. That way it's easy for somebody to step over the bike. But if you are a taller rider, you might want to drop them down. If you're a shorter rider, like I said, you have a couple different spots that you can play with. But that's just easy and how simple it is to take it off and to put her back on. Stick the bolt in there, or typically, I'll just line it up first. Look on the back side of it. Turn it a couple times, that way it's in position. Go ahead and make sure she secure it in there. Jeez. Probably helps if the wire wasn't in the way. But make sure she is tight. Of course, you want to torque it to specs, because all your weight will be sitting on this. When you're getting off the bike, drop her down. All right, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you found it useful, please leave a comment, you know, share with somebody that had no idea that this could be done, or somebody that's been struggling out there, you know, with getting on the bike and just looking for an easier way to do it. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.